"You are never going to own your own home," my son Liam said in the middle of our family dinner, and then he laughed. His wife, Olivia, nodded with that superior smile I knew so well. "Keep renting forever, Mom. It is your thing." I looked down at my plate and said softly, "You are probably right, son." What neither of them knew was that the very next day I was going to call James, my property manager, to tell him something very simple. Stop accepting my son's rent payments. The $4,500 a month that Liam had been paying me for 3 years without knowing it. But that would come later. First, I had to survive that dinner. The table was set with that excessive care Olivia always applied when she wanted to impress. White plates, cloth napkins folded into the shape of swans, wine glasses that sparkled under the dining room chandelier as if they were jewels. I had arrived with my container of homemade rice pudding, the same dessert I had been making since Liam was a boy. Olivia looked at it as if I had brought something rotten. She smiled, that tight smile that never reached her eyes, and said thank you without even touching it. She left it on the kitchen counter, far from the elegant table, as if my food might contaminate her perfect decor. Liam did not even turn to look at me. He was busy opening a bottle of red wine, which, he announced with pride, cost $90. He repeated it 3 times so we would all hear it clearly. $90 for a bottle that would be empty in 2 hours. Robert and Susan were already seated. My brother had that tense look on his face, the one he wore when he sensed something bad was about to happen. Susan greeted me with a genuine kiss on the cheek and a warm handshake. Those were the only kind gestures of the entire night up to that point. I sat in the chair Olivia pointed to with an elegant, almost dismissive gesture. The one at the far end of the table, the furthest from the head, where Liam settled in as if he were the master of the universe. How ironic. The master of the universe in an apartment that was not his. Olivia wore an emerald green dress that probably cost more than I spent in 6 months, according to my mental calculations. Gold earrings, matching bracelet, nails done perfectly at the most expensive salon in the city. Everything about her screamed success, money, superiority. "Mom, you look tired," Liam said as he poured wine into the glasses. It was not a comment born of concern. It was a cold, almost clinical observation. "I suppose at your age it is normal." 70 years is not a small number. Olivia let out a little laugh. "It must be hard living with the uncertainty of renting at that age. Right, Mom? No equity. No stability. I would die of anxiety." I took a sip of water, not wine. They never offered me wine. My glass was empty while everyone else would toast later. "Renting is not so bad," I said with a soft voice. "I manage well." "You manage?" Liam raised an eyebrow. "Mom, let us be honest. At 70 you should have something of your own, something you can leave to your family." "But well, everyone does with their life what they can." "No." Robert cleared his throat uncomfortably. Susan looked at her plate as if it were the most interesting thing in the world. No one defended me. Olivia brought the first course, a starter of smoked salmon with capers and artisanal toast. She placed the plate in front of each diner with studied movements, as if she were in a 5-star restaurant. When she got to me, she almost dropped it. It was not an accident. It was a gesture. "This salmon was flown in from Alaska," Olivia announced, returning to her chair. $120 a pound. "But it is worth investing in quality, do you not think? We do not skimp on the good things in life." "Of course not," said Susan with a diplomatic smile. "It looks delicious." "It is just that we believe in living well," continued Liam, cutting his salmon with surgical precision, working hard, investing smartly, building equity. It is the only way to have a secure future. There it was, the first direct hit. Equity. That word they would repeat all night like a mantra designed to make me feel small. "Equity is important," I said, chewing slowly. "You are right, son." Olivia looked at me with something resembling pity. "Fake, acted, poisonous." "Oh, Mom, do not feel bad. Not everyone can be good with money. Some people simply do not have that knack for business, for investments. It is genetic, I think." Liam nodded, as if his wife had just said something profoundly wise. Mom was always more simple. Right, Mom? You were never interested in those complicated financial things. Simple. The word floated in the air, like an insult disguised as an observation. I was simple. I was the one who did not understand. I was the failure of the family, who at 70 years old was still paying rent while my successful son dined on Alaskan salmon in his beautiful apartment. If only they knew. I always preferred peace of mind, I replied, without complications. Sure, sure, said Olivia condescendingly. The peace of mind of having no big responsibilities. It must be liberating not to have to worry about property values, maintenance, taxes. Just pay your monthly rent, and you are done. Simple life for simple people. Robert let out an almost imperceptible sigh. Susan drank wine as if she wanted to disappear. I kept eating my $120 a pound salmon, knowing that every bite of that dinner was paid for indirectly with the money they gave me every month. $4,500 a month. For 3 years. $162,000 in total. And they did not even know it. Liam wiped his mouth with the swan napkin and smiled. After dinner, we are going to show you the renovations we did. We changed the whole kitchen. Italian marble. Top-of-the-line appliances. It cost us $30,000, but it was worth every penny. You have to invest in your home, you know? It is where you build your life. How wonderful, said Robert, without much enthusiasm. It must look beautiful. It turned out perfect, corrected Olivia. Like everything we do not do things halfway. If you are going to remodel, do it right. If you are going to buy quality. If you are going to live large. I felt as if I were learning valuable lessons from 2 people who had been paying me rent for 3 years without knowing it. Olivia cleared the appetizer plates with theatrical movements, as if she were acting in a play where she was the undisputed star. Liam got up to show off the remodeled kitchen before the main course. We all had to follow him as if we were tourists in a museum dedicated to his greatness. The kitchen was, effectively, impressive. Dark wood cabinets, marble countertops that shone under the recessed LED lights, a professional 6-burner gas range, a stainless steel refrigerator with a touch screen on the door. Everything smelled new, expensive, successful. This is authentic Carrara marble, said Liam, running his hand over the countertop as if caressing a treasure. We imported it directly from Italy. $2,000 a square yard. Incredible, murmured Susan, although her tone was more out of obligation than genuine admiration. And this stove is the same one they use in Michelin-starred restaurants, added Olivia, leaning against the central island with a model's posture. $8,500. But cooking on it is like cooking on the clouds. True, babe. Liam hugged her around the waist. The best for my wife. She deserves the best. I observed everything in silence, doing mental calculations. The complete kitchen had cost more than $30,000, according to their bragging. That was equivalent to almost 7 months of the rent they paid me. They were remodeling my property with my own money and feeling superior about it. Mom, did you never think about remodeling your rented apartment? Asked Liam with that feigned innocence he used when he wanted to twist the knife deeper. Oh, no, right. It makes no sense to invest in something that is not yours. It would be throwing money in the trash. Exactly, I replied. It makes no sense. Olivia let out a crystalline laugh. That is why it is so important to own your own space, Mom, to be able to do what you want with it, to build your own empire, even if it is small. But well, you already know that. I suppose you just never could achieve it. Never could achieve it. Those words resonated in the $30,000 kitchen like a definitive sentence on my life. Me, the 70-year-old woman who never could, the one left behind, the one who failed at the game of equity and stability. Robert shot me a look that said, "Hold on, do not say anything." I knew my brother. He knew I was swallowing every insult with a calm that was not natural for me, but he did not know why. Not yet. We returned to the table for the main course. Olivia brought platters of roasted lamb with roasted vegetables and truffle mashed potatoes. The smell was intoxicating. The presentation, magazine-worthy. The lamb is from New Zealand, announced Liam, serving himself a generous portion. Organic, grass-fed, $50 a pound. But you can tell the difference, believe me. It looks delicious, I said, and it was true. It is just that we do not shop at any regular supermarket, explained Olivia, sitting down elegantly. We have a specialized butcher. It costs more, yes, but quality is non-negotiable. When you have a certain standard of living, you cannot settle for less. A certain standard of living. There it was again. That invisible line they had drawn between their successful world and my mediocre existence as a perpetual tenant. Liam cut his lamb and chewed with an expression of exaggerated pleasure. Perfect. Olivia, honey, you are an extraordinary chef. Thank you, my love, she replied with a radiant smile. I just like doing things right. Not those simple everyday meals. I like every dinner to be an experience. She looked at my container of rice pudding abandoned on the kitchen counter. She did not say anything. It was not necessary. The message was clear. Tell us, how are the plans for the trip to Europe going? Asked Susan, trying to change the subject to something less tense. Olivia's eyes lit up as if she had won the lottery. Ah yes, in 3 months we are going to Italy and France. 3 full weeks we are going to stay in boutique hotels. No commercial chains. We already have reservations at Michelin-starred restaurants in Rome, Florence, Paris, and Lyon. Sounds wonderful, said Robert politely. The whole trip is going to cost us around $25,000, added Liam with pride. But it is an investment in experiences. Memories are priceless. $25,000, almost 6 months of rent. They were planning their dream European vacation with the money they paid me monthly to live in my building. And you, Mom? Asked Liam, turning toward me with fake curiosity. When was the last time you left the city? How long has it been since you took a vacation? I thought about my answer. A while. I prefer to stay quietly at home. Of course, said Olivia condescendingly. With a limited budget, it is hard to travel. Flights are super expensive now. And hotels, do not even mention it. It is understandable that you prefer to stay home. Saving is important when you do not have much. I did not have much. Me who could buy 10 trips to Europe without blinking. Me who had 8 properties generating passive income every month. Me who had built a real estate empire in silence while everyone thought I was a failure. Saving is important, I agreed. You always have been, Liam laughed. Mom and her savings. I remember you were always obsessive about that. Saving every penny. You never treated yourself. I suppose that is why you never scraped together enough for a down payment on a house, right? Saving little by little, you never get to anything big. There it was. The punch they had been preparing all night. The real reason for this dinner. It was not a family gathering. It was a tribunal where I was the accused and they were the judges handing down sentences on my failure. Houses are very expensive now, said Susan, trying to soften the moment. Many people prefer to rent. It is more flexible. Olivia shook her head, her perfectly styled hair moving like in a shampoo commercial. That is the mindset of people who are never going to progress, Susan. Renting is throwing money away. Every month you pay and receive nothing in return. It is like burning bills. On the other hand, when you buy, you are investing. You are building something. Your equity grows. We are owners, added Liam, gesturing around as if the apartment were a palace. This place is worth $350,000 now. When we bought it 3 years ago, it was worth $280,000. We have gained $70,000 in value without doing anything. That is financial intelligence. They bought it. He said they bought it. My son was so convinced of his lie that he repeated it with absolute confidence. They had not bought anything. They had been renting Unit 4B of my building for 3 years, paying me religiously every first of the month, never knowing the money arrived in my account. How lucky you are, I said with a neutral voice. It is not luck, Mom, corrected Liam with an almost paternal tone, as if teaching me a basic life lesson. It is hard work. It is making smart decisions. It is sacrifice. Olivia and I sacrificed a lot to buy this property. We saved for years, worked extra shifts, deprived ourselves of many things. But it was worth it, because now we have something of our own. Olivia nodded dramatically. While other people spent their money on nonsense, we invested. That is the difference between successful people and people who stay stuck all their lives. The people who stay stuck all their lives. Me. She was talking about me without saying my name. She was sitting there, eating her $50 a pound lamb, delivering every word like a silent slap. Robert put down his silverware with more force than necessary. The sound of metal against porcelain resonated like a mute protest. Susan put a hand on his arm, asking for calm without words. Dessert arrived in crystal glasses, chocolate mousse with fresh raspberries and mint leaves. Olivia served it with the same ceremony with which a sommelier presents $1,000 wine. My rice pudding remained on the counter, untouched, forgotten, like me. "This chocolate is Belgian," said Olivia. 70% cocoa, $30 a bar. But for special occasions we do not skimp. Special occasions. An ordinary family dinner was a special occasion to exhibit their alleged wealth, to rub in my face everything I had not achieved. Liam took a spoonful and closed his eyes dramatically. "Exquisite. Simply exquisite." "Thank you, love," replied Olivia, radiant. Then she looked at me. "Mom, how is your mousse? I know you are not used to such refined desserts, but I hope you enjoy it." "It is delicious," I said. And it was. But every bite tasted of humiliation. "It is just that you have to treat yourself in life," continued Olivia, leaning back in her chair like a queen on her throne. "We work hard, we deserve rewards. Not like those people who live in fear, counting every penny, without daring to enjoy themselves. That is not life. That is survival. Survival. Another word carefully chosen to describe me without naming me. I was the one surviving. They were the ones living." Liam wiped his mouth and left the napkin on the table. He had that expression he wore when he was about to say something he considered important. I knew him. He was my son. I had raised that face, fed that mouth, formed that brain that now judged me. "Mom," he started with a serious tone, "I want to talk to you about something important." Silence settled over the table. Even Robert stopped pretending to eat. Susan held her wineglass without drinking. Olivia smiled. She knew what was coming. They had planned it together. "Tell me, son," I replied calmly. Liam took a deep breath, as if what he was about to say required effort. "Fake compassion. Fake concern. I am worried about your situation. You are already 70 years old. You keep renting. You have no significant savings, as far as I know. You have no properties. You have no investments. What is going to happen to you in the future?" "Liam," Robert started. But my son raised a hand to silence him. "No, Robert, let me finish. Someone has to speak the truth here. Mom needs to hear this." Olivia leaned forward, with an expression of concern so fake it made one want to laugh. "Mom, what Liam is trying to say is that you are getting older. What are you going to do when you can no longer work? When rents go up more and more? When you need expensive medical help?" "I have not thought much about that," I lied. "Exactly," said Liam, tapping the table softly. "That is the problem. You have not thought. You never thought. That is why you are where you are. Without equity, without security, without a stable future." The words floated in the air like knives. Susan looked at her empty plate as if she wanted to disappear inside it. Robert clenched his jaw so hard I could hear his teeth grinding from my seat. "And what do you suggest, son?" I asked, with a soft, almost submissive voice. Liam exchanged a look with Olivia. This too was planned, rehearsed, prepared in advance like a bad theater script. "We suggest you be realistic," said Olivia. "That you accept your situation, that you stop dreaming of things that are never going to happen." "Things like what?" I asked, although I knew exactly where they were going. Liam leaned toward me with a paternal, condescending, insufferable expression. "Mom, let us be honest here. You are never going to have a house of your own." There it was, the final sentence. The words they had been building toward all night. The verdict on my life, pronounced by my own son in his $350,000 apartment that he believed he had bought. Olivia nodded with an expression of fake empathy. "It is better that you accept your reality, Mom. You are going to rent forever. And that is fine. Not everyone can be a property owner. Some of us were born for that, others were not. It is not your fault. You simply do not have the capacity." I did not have the capacity. Me, who had bought my first property at 40 years old with savings no one knew I had. Me, who had invested smartly for 30 years while everyone thought I was barely surviving. Me, who was now the owner of 8 properties valued at more than $2 million. "You are probably right, son," I said quietly, looking at my Belgian chocolate mousse. Liam seemed relieved, as if my acceptance of my failure gave him permission to feel even more superior. "I am glad you understand, Mom. It is important to be realistic. Living in fantasy only causes suffering. And we do not want you to suffer," added Olivia with poisonous sweetness. We want you to be happy with what you have. Your little rented apartment is fine for you. It is what you can pay. It is your reality. Embrace it." Robert let out a sound of disbelief. Susan squeezed his arm harder, begging for silence. My brother knew something was wrong. He could feel the injustice floating in the air like toxic smoke, but he did not know what to do. "Besides," continued Liam, leaning back in his chair with complete satisfaction, "we can help you if one day you have an emergency. That is what family is for. Although you were never able to build equity, we did. And we are not going to leave you helpless." He was offering me help. My son was offering me financial help while paying me $4,500 a month in rent. The irony was so perfect it almost hurt. "You are very generous, Liam," I said. "It is what successful children do," replied Olivia. "They take care of their parents when they could not take care of themselves. It is our moral duty, our morale duty, taking care of the poor old failure who never achieved anything in life. Me, who had given them everything. Me, who had worked 3 jobs to pay for his college. Me, who had sacrificed so that Liam would have opportunities I never had. And now he was there, in my property, offering me charity. "I appreciate your concern," I said, getting up from the table. "But it is late. I should go." "Already?" asked Liam, but he did not seem disappointed. He seemed relieved. They had already accomplished their mission. They had already put me in my place. They had already made clear who was successful and who was the failure of the family. Olivia got up too, smoothing her emerald green dress. "It was a pleasure having you, Mom. I am sorry you did not bring your rice pudding to the table. I am sure it was good in its own way. Simple, but good. Simple, but good. Like me. Like my life. Like everything I represented to them." Robert and Susan got up too. My brother hugged me at the door with unusual strength. "Are you okay?" he whispered in my ear. "Perfectly," I replied. And it was true. Liam gave me a kiss on the cheek. "Think about what we talked about, Mom. It is for your own good. Someone had to tell you." "I will think about it," I promised. Olivia hugged me without really touching me. That air hug that people give when they do not want to wrinkle their clothes. "Take care of yourself, Mom. And remember, it is okay not to own anything. Not all of us can." I left Unit 4B of my building. The hallway was silent. The automatic lights turned on when I passed. I took the elevator to the main floor. The night doorman greeted me with respect. "Good evening, Mrs. Eleanor." "Good evening, Frank," I replied. He did not know I was his boss. No one in the building knew. James handled everything through a management company. I was invisible, anonymous. The ghost tenant, who was actually the owner of everything. I walked the 3 blocks to my apartment. Not the rented apartment everyone believed was my home. My true apartment. The penthouse of the building I had bought 15 years ago. 3 bedrooms, a terrace with a view of the city, luxury finishes that made Liam's kitchen look like a cheap furniture showroom. I entered my penthouse and took off my shoes. The silence was different here. It was not the uncomfortable silence of dinner with Liam and Olivia. It was peace. It was my space. My secret kingdom that no one knew about. I poured myself a glass of wine. Not $90 a bottle to show off. A good one I had bought because I liked it, not because I needed validation from anyone. I sat on the terrace and watched the city lights blinking like terrestrial stars. "You are never going to own your own home." I repeated Liam's words out loud. They sounded even more ridiculous here, in my $600,000 property, looking toward the building where he lived paying me rent. I picked up my phone. It was almost midnight, but James always answered. It was part of his job as manager. I paid him very well to be available. "Mrs. Eleanor," he answered on the first ring. "Is something wrong?" "I need you to come to my house tomorrow," I said calmly. "We have to talk about Unit 4B. There was a pause. "Your son's unit?" "Exactly that one." "What time should I expect you?" "At 10 in the morning. Bring the lease agreement and all related documents." "Understood, ma'am? May I ask?" "We will talk tomorrow," I interrupted him gently. "Get some rest, James." I hung up and stayed looking at the city. 30 years of work. 30 years of sacrifice that no one saw. 30 years building an empire I kept hidden because I wanted Liam to learn to fend for himself. I wanted him to be independent, strong, capable. I had given him the best education, supported him until he turned 25, and then I had released him into the world to fly alone. But I never imagined he would fly straight toward my building without knowing it. I never imagined his independence would consist of paying me rent for 3 years while telling me I was a failure. I did not sleep well that night. The words from dinner spun in my head like a broken record. You do not have the capacity. You are going to rent forever. It is better that you accept your reality. Every phrase was a stab wound I had received in silence, swallowing the blood so no one would see the injury. At 10 o'clock sharp the next morning, the doorbell rang. James arrived with his leather briefcase and impeccable suit. He was a 50-year-old man, professional, discreet, efficient. He had been managing my properties for 12 years and had never failed. "Good morning, Mrs. Eleanor," he said, entering the penthouse. He was always a little surprised when he came. The difference between what people believed I was and what I really had was abysmal. "Good morning, James. Coffee, please." I made coffee while he pulled documents from his briefcase. We sat at the dining room table, the same one where I had reviewed the financial statements of my properties hundreds of times. "Unit 4B, started James, opening a folder. "Tenant, Liam Michael Ruiz, your son. Renter for 3 years and 2 months. Monthly payment, $4,500. He has never been late on a payment. Model tenant by all standards. When does the current contract expire?" James checked the papers. "In exactly 3 months. March 1st. We have an automatic renewal clause if both parties agree. I want you to notify that there will be no renewal." James looked up from the documents. Surprised. "You are not going to renew the contract with your son?" "I am not going to renew the contract with that tenant," I corrected. "Right now, he is a tenant. Nothing more." "I understand." James wrote something in his notebook. "Then I proceed with the legal notice of non-renewal, 3 months' notice as required by law." "Any specific reason I should put in the document?" "The standard reason. The owner requires the property for personal or family use." "Perfect. Anything else?" I thought for a moment. "Starting today, if Liam or Olivia call requesting extensions, payment plans, or any kind of negotiation, the answer is no. The contract expires, and that is it. No exceptions." James nodded, taking notes. "And if they ask who the owner is, until now, all communication has been through the management company. They do not know you are the owner. Should it remain that way?" "For now." I smiled without humor. "We will see how things develop." James closed his notebook and looked at me with professional curiosity. In 12 years working together, he had never asked about my personal life. But now the question was in his eyes, even if he did not pronounce it. "My son believes I am a failure," I said simply. "He believes I never achieved anything in life. Last night he made it very clear to me during a dinner where he humiliated me in front of the whole family. Mrs. Eleanor, do not misunderstand me. James, I am not looking for revenge. I am looking for justice. I am looking for him to learn a lesson he should have learned a long time ago. Respect. Especially respect toward his mother." James put the documents in his briefcase. "He will receive the notification in 2 business days by certified mail. Do you need anything else from me?" "Stay available. Something tells me the next few weeks are going to be interesting." After James left, my phone started ringing. First, it was a message from Liam. "Mom, thanks for coming last night. I hope you reflected on what we talked about. It is for your own good." I deleted the message without replying. Then Olivia called. I let it go to voicemail. I listened to the message later. "Hi, Mom. Just calling to make sure you got home okay last night. I hope we did not offend you with our advice. We just want the best for you. Have a nice day in your little apartment." Your little apartment. She said it with that condescending tone that I was already sick of. The days passed with tense normality. Liam called me twice more that week. Short conversations where he talked about his wonderful life, and I listened in silence. Olivia posted photos on social media of the remodeled kitchen, with captions about hard work and met goals and being masters of our destiny. Every post was a knife. Every message was a reminder that they saw me as someone inferior, as someone who needed their pity and advice because my life had been a failure. Robert called me on Friday. "Eleanor, I need to talk to you." "Tell me, brother." "That dinner was horrible. The way Liam and Olivia treated you was unacceptable. Susan and I left there furious." "It is over, Robert." "No, it is not over. You are my sister. I am not going to stay silent while your own son humiliates you like that. I am going to talk to him. Do not do it, I said firmly. Please, let me handle this my way. Your way? And what is your way? Letting them walk all over you? If he knew. If Robert knew the whole truth, he would understand that I was not letting them walk all over me. I was waiting for the exact moment to flip the script in the biggest way in history. Trust me, I asked him. Robert sighed. All right. But if you need anything at all, call me. Agreed. Exactly 1 week after the dinner, Liam received the certified envelope. James called me to confirm. The notification was delivered today at 2 in the afternoon. Liam Ruiz signed for it. Perfect, I said. Now the interesting part begins. I did not have to wait long. At 4 in the afternoon, my phone exploded. 3 missed calls from Liam, 5 text messages, 2 from Olivia, all with the same tone of barely contained panic. Mom, call me urgent. I need to talk to you now. It is an emergency. I did not answer immediately. I let the anxiety grow. I let them feel a little bit of the helplessness I had felt at that dinner when they declared me a failure. At 7 in the evening, I finally answered Liam's call. He sounded desperate, something I had never heard in my son. Always so sure, so controlled, so master of his perfect life. Mom, thank God you answered, he said with a trembling voice. We have a huge problem. What happened, son? I asked calmly, as if I did not know exactly what had happened. We got an eviction notice. Well, it is not an eviction technically. It is a non-renewal of the lease. The owner of the apartment says he is not going to renew when the term expires in 3 months. How terrible, I said without emotion. It is a disaster, Mom. I do not understand what happened. We always pay on time. We never caused problems. We take care of the place as if it were ours. Why would the owner do this? Did you ask? The management company gives no explanations. They just say it is the owner's decision and that it is legal. 3 months' notice, and that is it. We have to leave. I could hear Olivia crying in the background. It is unfair, she was shouting. We invested $30,000 in that kitchen. $30,000 that now other tenants are going to enjoy. $30,000 in my property. Increasing the value of my investment, the irony was still delicious. I am so sorry, Liam. What are you going to do? I asked. I do not know, Mom. I do not know. We have been looking for other apartments, but everything is super expensive now. Prices went up horribly in these 3 years. What used to cost $4,500 now costs $7,000 or $8,000. We cannot pay that. Interesting. Very interesting. The real estate market had gone up, and they were trapped in their own game of pretending to be rich. And can you not talk to the owner? Offer him more money? I suggested, knowing perfectly well that James had strict orders. We already tried. The manager says the owner is not interested in negotiating. He needs the property, period. It is as if he hates us or something. How strange, I lied. Olivia took the phone from Liam. Her voice sounded hysterical, broken, completely different from the confident and arrogant woman of last week. Mom, this is a nightmare. Do you know how much we invested in that apartment? Do you know how much love we put into it? And now they kick us out like dogs? It is inhuman. It is very hard, I agreed. We need your help, said Olivia, and there was something resembling pleading in her voice. Something I never thought I would hear from her. Can you lend us money for the move? The deposits are sky high now. We need at least $15,000 to be able to rent another decent place. $15,000. They were asking me for $15,000. Me, the failure who never owned a home. Me, the one who, according to them, had no financial capacity. Me, the one who lived in survival mode while they lived for real. Olivia, I do not have $15,000, I said gently. I barely have enough for my own rent every month. You guys know that. You said it last week at dinner. Silence. An uncomfortable, shameful silence, where Olivia was probably remembering every cruel word she had pronounced about my financial situation. But you are his mother, stammered Olivia. And you are successful adults with equity and $30,000 kitchens, I replied with poisonous sweetness. Surely you can solve this alone. You always say successful people find solutions. That hard work pays off. That smart decisions build the future. Liam got the phone back. Mom, please. I know we have been, maybe a little tough on you. But this is serious. We need real help. I am sorry, son. I cannot help you financially. I do not have those resources. Then what are we going to do? His voice broke. My successful son, my property-owning son, my son who had judged me, was crying. A part of me, the maternal part that never dies no matter how much they hurt you, wanted to give in, wanted to tell the truth right there, wanted to fix everything. But the part that had been humiliated, trampled, declared a failure in front of the family, that part stood firm. You are going to do what all people do when they face difficulties, I said. You are going to look for solutions. You are going to adjust your budget. You are going to make difficult decisions. You are going to learn. I hung up before he could answer. The following days were a parade of desperate messages. Liam wrote to me every morning with updates on his fruitless search. Olivia sent me links to super expensive apartments, asking if I knew the owner, if I could intercede, if I had contacts. They went from treating me like a failure to treating me like a last hope in a matter of a week. Robert called me confused. Liam asked me for money. $20,000. He says they are kicking them out of the apartment and that you cannot help them. It is true, I said. I cannot. But, Eleanor, do you not have something saved? I know you are not rich, but $20,000. Robert, do you remember the dinner last week? Do you remember how Liam and Olivia told me I was a failure with no future? That I would never have a home of my own? That I had no financial capacity? Yes, and it made me angry. But those are words. This is a real crisis. Words have consequences, I said firmly. And crises build character. You decide if you lend to them or not. I have already made my decision. 2 weeks after the notification, Liam appeared at my apartment without warning. He rang the bell at 9 at night. I opened the door, and there he was, with deep, dark circles, wrinkled clothes, messy hair. The perfect man from dinner had turned into someone who looked like he had not slept in days. Mom, I need to talk to you, he said, entering without permission. Come in, I said, although he had already entered. He dropped onto my sofa, my designer sofa that cost more than his entire living room set. But he did not know that. To him, this was the humble rented apartment of his failed mother. I am desperate, he confessed. We have seen 30 apartments. 30. All are out of our budget. The ones we can pay for are horrible. Small, old, in bad areas. Olivia cries every day. She says we have gone back 10 years in our life. I am sorry, I said, sitting in front of him. You are sorry. He looked at me with red eyes. That is all? Are you not going to help us? How do you want me to help you, Liam? I do not have money to lend you. I do not have real estate contacts. I do not have properties to offer you. I have nothing. I am the woman who is never going to have a home of her own. Remember? He fell silent. The words hit him like a boomerang. Mom, that night I said things. I thought you needed to hear the truth. The truth. I laughed without humor. Your truth? The truth is you never really knew me. The truth is you judged my life without knowing anything. The truth is you felt superior without having reason. I did not feel superior. I was just worried about you. Lie, I said with a firmness that made him recoil. You were bragging, Olivia, and you wanted to show me everything you had and everything I did not have. You wanted to rub your success in my face. You wanted me to feel small. And you succeeded. Liam covered his face with his hands. I did not know it hurt you so much. You did not care if it hurt me or not, I replied. You only cared about feeling big. And now what? Are you going to punish me? Are you going to let us lose everything because I said hurtful things? You are not going to lose everything, Liam. You are going to lose a rented apartment, which is very different. And you are going to learn that words have weight, that respect is earned, that humility is important no matter how much success you think you have. Liam got up from the sofa, pacing my living room like a caged animal. I cannot believe you are so cold. I am your son, your only son, and you are going to let me fall like this. I am not letting you fall, I replied calmly. I am letting you learn to stand alone. Something I thought you had already learned years ago. I already know how to stand alone, he shouted, losing his composure. I have been doing it for years. I have a good job. I pay my bills. I support my family. What else do you want me to prove? I want you to prove respect. I want you to prove humility. I want you to understand that success gives you no right to humiliate others, especially not your own mother. I did not humiliate you. His voice went up an octave. I just gave you advice. I just tried to make you see your real situation. You called me a failure without saying the word, I said, rising too. You told me I had no capacity, that I was simple, that I lived in survival. Olivia said I would never own anything because I was not born for that. Are those bits of advice, Liam? Or are they insults disguised as concern? He stayed silent, looking at the floor. He knew I was right, but his pride would not let him admit it. That dinner was planned, I continued. It was not a casual family gathering. It was a tribunal where I was the accused. You guys prepared to tell me how much of a failure I am, to feel superior, to mark territory, and now that things got difficult, you come running to the failure asking for help. I did not think you were so resentful, he said bitterly. It is not resentment, son. It is justice. It is consequence. It is life teaching you something you should have learned a long time ago. Liam walked toward the door. Fine, I am not going to beg you anymore. I see how things are. When things get really bad, when Olivia and I are on the street, I hope you can sleep peacefully knowing that you could have helped and did not want to. You are not going to be on the street, I said. You are capable adults. You are going to find a solution. Only it is not going to be the perfect solution you expected. It is going to be the real solution, the human one, the one that comes with sacrifice and learning. He left without saying goodbye. The door closed with a force that made the frame shake. I stayed there standing, feeling the weight of the decision I had made. It was painful. It was terrible to see my son suffer, but it was necessary. Robert called me that same night. Liam came to my house crying. He says you refused him coldly. It is true, I admitted. Eleanor, I know he hurt you at that dinner. Susan and I saw it. It was horrible. But this has gone from a lesson to cruelty. It is 3 months. What are they going to do? They are going to look for a cheaper apartment. They are going to adjust their lifestyle. They are going to stop bragging about things they do not have. They are going to learn humility. And if they do not find anything, they will find something, I said with certainty. Maybe not in the neighborhood they want. Maybe not with the $30,000 kitchen. But they will find something. I do not recognize you, said Robert with sadness. My sister was always the most generous person in the world, always giving, always helping. What happened to you? I got tired of giving without receiving respect in return, I replied. I got tired of being invisible. I got tired of my sacrifice being confused with failure. I got tired of being the one everyone can step on because she always forgives, always forgets, always gives another chance. Robert sighed. Okay, I am not going to judge you, but know that Liam is destroyed, and Olivia is worse. She talks about divorcing because she cannot stand the shame of moving to something smaller. That surprised me. Divorcing? She says she married a successful man, not someone who would make her live in a dump. Those are her words, not mine. So Olivia was showing her true face. She did not love Liam. She loved the lifestyle. She loved the image. She loved being able to brag. When that crumbled, her love did too. Then maybe Liam will learn 2 lessons instead of 1, I said. The weeks passed like a slow nightmare. Liam stopped calling me. The messages ceased. The silence between us grew like an abyss that seemed impossible to cross. But I maintained my decision. James reported to me every week. The tenant of 4B has requested an extension of the term 3 times. All denied according to your instructions, he informed me. Good, I would reply each time. They also asked if they can sublet. We told them no according to the contract. Correct. Mrs. Eleanor, if I may say so, your son seems truly desperate. Are you sure about maintaining this position? Completely sure, James. A month before the contract expired, Robert organized an emergency family meeting. He called me, begging me to attend. Please, Eleanor, Liam needs to talk to you. They need to resolve this before it is too late. Where? I asked. At my house. This Sunday. only close family. Liam, Olivia, you, Susan, and me. Is Olivia going to be there? I asked skeptically. She promised to behave. She says she wants to apologize to you. I doubted it. But I agreed to go. Maybe it was time to start closing this painful chapter. On Sunday, I arrived at Robert's house with a knot in my stomach. Susan opened the door with a warm hug. "Thanks for coming," she whispered. "This has been very difficult for everyone." Liam and Olivia were already in the living room. My son looked haggard, 10 years older than 2 months ago. Olivia had swollen eyes from crying, runny makeup, hair without that perfect shine she always maintained. The dress she wore was simple, normal, nothing of the luxury she used to exhibit. "Mom," said Liam, standing up. He did not approach to hug me. There was a new distance between us, invisible but real. "Liam," I replied, sitting in the armchair Robert pointed to. Olivia looked at me with eyes that mixed hate and pleading. She was broken, but there was still arrogance in her posture, as if it hurt her to have to be there, humiliating herself in front of the mother-in-law she had despised. "Thanks for coming," started Robert, always the mediator. "I think we all need to talk calmly, put things in perspective, find a solution to this." "There is nothing to resolve," I said firmly. "Liam's contract expires in a month. That is the reality." "Mom, please." Liam leaned forward, hands clasped as if praying. "I have looked everywhere. There is nothing in our budget, nothing decent. The places we can pay for are horrible, dangerous. I cannot take Olivia to live in those places." "Then broaden your search," I suggested. "Look in other neighborhoods. Adjust your expectations." "I already adjusted my expectations," he exploded. "I adjusted them 1,000 times. Every day I have to adjust them more, because every day prices go up and our options decrease. Do you know what it feels like? Do you know what it is to see your life crumble and your own mother does not lift a finger to help you?" "I know exactly what it feels like," I replied with a dangerously calm voice. "It feels like sitting at a dinner where your own son tells you that you are a failure, that you never achieved anything, that you have no capacity, that you must accept your reality as an eternal tenant because you were not born to own anything." Silence fell like a tombstone over the living room. Olivia spoke for the first time, with a broken voice. "We already apologized for that. How many times do we have to say it? We are sorry. We were wrong. We said horrible things, but it is over. Are you going to punish us forever?" "I am not punishing you," I said, looking directly at her. "I am letting you live your own medicine. You said I was simple, that I lived in survival, that I had no equity. Now you are going to experience exactly that. You are going to live with less. You are going to adjust. You are going to survive instead of brag." "That is not fair," said Olivia with a trembling voice. "We worked hard to have what we have. We do not deserve to lose it like this." "And did I deserve to be humiliated like that?" I shot back. "Did I deserve my own son declaring me a failure in front of the family? Did I deserve you telling me I was not born to own anything?" Olivia lowered her gaze. For the first time since I had known her, she had no arrogant answer. She had no condescending smile. There was only shame. Liam got up and walked toward the window, turning his back to me. "I do not know what else to do anymore. I do not know what else to say. If apologizing is not enough, if begging does not work, if explaining our desperation does not matter, then I have lost. We give up." "I do not want you to give up," I said. "I want you to learn." "Learn what?" He turned around abruptly. "That my mother is capable of watching me suffer without doing anything? That resentment is more important than family love? That is what I should learn?" His words hurt, but not as much as his had hurt me that night. "You must learn that people have value beyond their bank account," I said, standing up too. "That your mother, even if you think she lives in a rented apartment, deserves respect. That people who do not have what you have are not inferior. That humility is a virtue, not a weakness. That words have consequences." Robert intervened. "Eleanor, we understand your point, truly. But 2 months have passed. They have suffered. They have learned the lesson. Do you not think it is time to forgive?" "Forgive what exactly?" I asked. "Because until now, I have not heard a real apology." "I have heard 'we are sorry,'" said with resentment, "because they need something from me. I have heard excuses. I have heard victimization. But I have not heard a genuine acknowledgement of what they did." Liam looked at me intently. Okay, you want a real apology? Here it goes. Mom, I am sorry for making you feel less. I am sorry for judging your life without really knowing it. I am sorry for using your financial situation as an example of failure. I am sorry for humiliating you in front of the family. I am sorry for every hurtful word I said that night. Is that real enough for you? There was sincerity in his voice. For the first time in 2 months, my son was being genuine. The pride had broken. The mask had fallen. It was just Liam, my son, the boy I had raised, vulnerable and repentant. It is a start, I said softly. Olivia also stood up. She approached me with unsure steps, as if fearing I would reject her. Mom, I am sorry too. I am sorry for being cruel. I am sorry for being a show-off. I am sorry for thinking I was better than you just because I had material things. I am not. And these 2 months have taught me that everything I bragged about was superficial. It was fake. It was fragile. An eviction notice was enough to destroy my entire perfect world. That proves I never had anything real. Her tears were genuine. Her voice broke with every word. This was not the arrogant Olivia from dinner. This was a broken woman who finally understood the difference between having things and having value. Susan wiped her tears discreetly. Robert looked at me hopefully, silently begging me to give in. I appreciate your apologies, I said after a long silence. I truly do, and I accept them. But that does not change the situation with the apartment. What? Liam seemed confused. But if we already apologized, if we already admitted we were wrong, you are still not going to help us? I cannot help you with the apartment because it is not in my hands, I said. And technically it was true. The decision was already made. The process was already in motion. Then what did we come for? Asked Olivia with renewed desperation. Why apologize if nothing changes? To heal the relationship, I replied. So that when this is over, we can rebuild what broke. But the lesson has to be completed. You have to live the consequences of your actions and your real situation. Our real situation. Liam frowned. What do you mean? I mean that maybe you are not as successful as you thought. Maybe your lifestyle was unsustainable. Maybe the $30,000 kitchen and the $25,000 trips to Europe were too much for your real budget. Maybe you have been living above your means, and this is simply reality catching up to you. Liam opened his mouth to protest but closed it. He knew I was right. Olivia let herself fall onto the sofa, defeated. Then what do we do? Asked my son with a small voice. Do we move to a horrible place? Do we lose everything we built? You move to a place you can actually pay for, I said. You rebuild from there, with humility, with gratitude for what you have, not with resentment for what you lost. And you learn to value people for who they are, not for what they have. Robert cleared his throat. I have been thinking. I have a small building with some apartments. There is one available on the 3rd floor. It is not luxurious. It does not have an Italian marble kitchen, but it is decent, safe, in a good area. I can rent it to you for $3,000 a month. $1,500 less than what you pay now. Liam looked at him surprised. You would do that for us? You are my nephew, said Robert. Of course I would. But with conditions. No expensive renovations. No living above your means. And no disrespecting anyone, especially not your mother. I accept, said Liam immediately. I accept all conditions. Thank you, Uncle, thank you. Olivia also thanked him through tears. Susan smiled, relieved. The tension in the room diminished a little, as if everyone could breathe again. But I knew this wasn't over. This was only a temporary solution. The true revelation was still to come. And it would come soon, at the right moment. I am glad you found a solution, I said, getting up. And I am glad you learned something from this. Mom, wait. Liam stopped me. Can we have a normal relationship again? Can we leave it behind? We can try, I replied. But things will never be as before. Something broke that night at dinner. And although we can repair it, the scar will always be there, reminding me to protect myself, reminding you to respect me. Liam nodded sadly. I understand. I left Robert's house feeling strange. On one hand, relieved that Liam had found a solution. On the other, still expectant. Because the most important part of this whole story was missing. The moment when the full truth would come to light was missing. That night I called James. "How is everything going with Unit 4B? The tenant confirmed he will move out in 2 weeks. Before the contract expires, he says he found another place. Everything is proceeding according to plan." "Perfect," I said. "Now I want you to do something for me. You name it, Mrs. Eleanor. I want to organize a meeting. In Unit 4B, after Liam has moved out, but before they clean or prepare the place for new tenants. Invite Liam, Olivia, Robert, and Susan. Tell them the owner wants to meet them personally to explain the situation. But do not tell them who the owner is." James stayed silent for a moment. "Are you sure about this, ma'am?" "Completely sure." "When do you want the meeting to be?" 3 days after they move. Give them time to settle into their new reality, and then you give them the full reality." "Understood. Anything else?" "Yes. Prepare all the documents, lease agreements, payment receipts, account statements, property deeds, everything. I want them to see everything. I will have it ready," promised James. I hung up the phone and stood looking out the window of my penthouse. The city shone below like a terrestrial constellation. Somewhere down there, my son was packing his things, preparing to move from the apartment he believed he had bought. From the apartment where he had invested $30,000 in renovations. From the apartment that was mine, since forever. And soon, very soon, he would know the full truth. Liam's move was sad and silent. Robert called me to tell me the details. They hired the cheapest company they found. 2 guys with an old van. Nothing compared to the professional movers they always used. Olivia cried all day. Liam did not speak to anyone. "Are they already installed in your building?" I asked. "Yes, the apartment is good, Eleanor. It is not what they had, but it is dignified. It has 2 bedrooms, normal kitchen, small living room, perfectly habitable. But Olivia acts as if they had put her in a prison. She has not unpacked a single box." "Give her time," I said. "Reality hurts at first." 3 days later, James sent the invitations. He called each one personally. "The owner of Unit 4B requests a meeting with you. He wants to personally explain the reasons for the non-renewal and apologize for the inconvenience caused. The meeting will be in the apartment this Saturday at 4 in the afternoon." Liam accepted immediately. Olivia too, probably hoping to be able to convince the mysterious owner to give them back their old life. Robert and Susan confirmed their attendance, curious to meet the owner who had caused so much drama. Saturday arrived with a clear sky and bright. Sunday I dressed elegantly, but without exaggerating. Black trousers, ivory blouse, pearl necklace I had bought with my first big real estate income. I did my makeup carefully. I wanted to look good. I wanted to look powerful. I wanted them to see the woman I really was, not the one they had invented in their heads. I arrived at the building half an hour early. Frank, the doorman, greeted me as always. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Eleanor." He still did not know I was his boss. I went up to the 4th floor. The hallway was empty and silent. I entered Unit 4B with my key, the master key I had for all my properties. The apartment looked strange without Liam and Olivia's furniture. The walls had marks where they had hung pictures. The $30,000 kitchen shone empty, beautiful, and ironic. James arrived minutes later with a briefcase full of documents and a thick folder. "Everything is here," he said, placing the papers on the marble countertop. "Contracts, receipts, property titles, account statements, the complete history of 3 years." "Perfect," I said, breathing deep. "Are you ready for this?" "The question is if you are ready, Mrs. Eleanor." I smiled. I have been preparing for this moment for 2 months. At 4 o'clock sharp, the doorbell rang. James opened the door. Liam entered first, followed by Olivia. Both looked surprised to see the empty apartment. Robert and Susan arrived seconds later. "Come in, please," said James with impeccable professionalism. "The owner is waiting for you inside." The 4 entered the empty living room. Their shoes resonated against the wooden floor. Liam looked around with painful nostalgia. Olivia had moist eyes. And then they saw me, standing by the window, with the afternoon sun illuminating me from behind. "Mom!" Liam frowned, confused. "What are you doing here?" "Waiting for you," I replied calmly. "Did the owner invite you too?" asked Olivia. "Why would you be here?" Robert was looking at me with a strange expression, as if an impossible thought were forming in his head. Susan covered her mouth with her hand, her eyes widening with sudden understanding. James closed the door behind them and stood by my side. "Allow me to make the formal introductions. She is Eleanor Marie Torres Ruiz, owner of this building, owner of Unit 4B, where you lived for 3 years, and my boss for 12 years. The silence that followed was so deep, I could hear the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. Liam looked at me as if I had grown a second head. Olivia opened and closed her mouth like a fish out of water. Robert started to laugh, a laugh of disbelief mixed with admiration. "This is a joke," said Olivia with a trembling voice. "It has to be a bad joke." "It is not a joke," I replied. "James, show them the documents, please." James opened the folder on the countertop. He took out the property deed first, with my name clearly visible, then the lease agreement signed by Liam. Then the payment receipts, 36 monthly receipts, all for $4,500, all with the stamp of my management company. Liam approached the countertop with zombie steps. He picked up the property deed with trembling hands. He read my name once, twice, 3 times. Then he looked at the contracts, then the receipts. His face went from confusion to understanding, from understanding to shock, from shock to something resembling horror. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no. This cannot be real." "It is completely real," said James. "Your mother bought this building 15 years ago. I manage it through a company that maintains the anonymity of the owners. When you and your wife requested to rent Unit 4B 3 years ago, your mother authorized the contract. You have been paying her $4,500 monthly for 36 months. Total, $162,000. Olivia let herself fall against the wall, sliding down until she was sitting on the floor. $162,000, she repeated as if in a trance. "We paid her $162,000. And the $30,000 for the kitchen," I added. "Which you invested in my property, increasing its value. Thanks for that. By the way, it turned out beautiful." Liam dropped the documents. He turned toward me with an expression that mixed rage, shame, and absolute devastation. "Why? Why did you do this to us?" "I did nothing to you," I replied calmly. "You rented an apartment. You paid your rent. You lived comfortably for 3 years. I simply did not reveal to you that I was the owner." "You let us believe we had bought?" shouted Olivia from the floor. "Liam told everyone we were owners. We told family, friends, everyone that this place was ours." "I never told you it was yours," I corrected. "You convinced yourselves. You created that narrative. I simply did not correct it." Robert was reading the documents with an expression of absolute astonishment. "Eleanor, this is incredible. You have 8 properties, 8, worth more than $2 million. How? When? Why did you never say anything?" "Because I wanted Liam to learn to be independent," I explained. "When he turned 25, I told him I would no longer support him, that he had to make his own life. And he did. He got a good job, got married, looked for his own place. I was proud. I never imagined he would end up renting one of my apartments without knowing it. It was pure coincidence, or maybe destiny. And you let us pay." Liam's voice sounded broken. "For 3 years you let us pay you without telling us anything." "Why would I have told you?" I asked. "The contract was legal. The price was fair. In fact, it was cheaper than the market average. You were happy. I was happy. Everything worked perfectly until you decided I was a failure." Liam covered his face with his hands. His shoulders shook. He was crying. My successful son, my son who had judged me, my son who had declared me incapable, was crying in the middle of the apartment he believed he had bought with his effort, and which turned out to be mine since forever. Olivia remained on the floor, looking at the $30,000 kitchen with an empty expression. "We remodeled your kitchen," she said with a dead voice. "We spent $30,000 remodeling your kitchen. We bragged about our smart investment. And it was your kitchen. It was always your kitchen. Technically, it is still my kitchen," I confirmed. "But I appreciate that you improved it. The next tenant will enjoy it very much." "The next tenant?" Liam lifted his face, red and wet from tears. "It already has a next tenant." "Of course," said James. "Unit 4B is very sought after, especially now with the renovated kitchen. It is already rented. The new tenants move in next week. They paid 6 months in advance. Susan finally spoke, her voice soft but clear. Why now? Why reveal all this now? Because the time came, I replied. Because they already learned the lesson of humility they needed. Because they already lived the experience of losing what they thought they had. And because they needed to know the full truth about the woman they called a failure. Robert started clapping slowly. Sister, this is. I have no words. It is brilliant. It is terrible. It is righteous. It is perfect. Liam walked toward me with slow steps, as if his legs barely held him. He stopped a yard away, looking at me as if seeing me for the first time in his life. Who are you? I am your mother, I replied simply. The same one I have always been. Only you never bothered to really know me. You never asked about my life, my achievements, my sacrifices. You just assumed that because I lived simply, I had nothing. You let us make fools of ourselves, said Olivia, getting up with difficulty. You let us brag about something that was not ours. You let us humiliate you when you had all the power. What kind of person does that? A person who wanted to teach you a lesson about humility and respect, I replied without apologizing. A person who worked 3 jobs to give her son a college education. A person who sacrificed for years, saving every penny no one saw. A person who built an empire in silence, while everyone thought she barely survived. A person who deserves respect, Olivia. That is what I am. Robert was still reviewing the documents. Eleanor, it says here you bought your first property 30 years ago. How is it possible? How did you do it without anyone knowing? I worked as a secretary by day, cleaned offices by night, and on weekends I sold homemade food, I explained. For 15 years I saved obsessively. I lived in a small apartment, wore second-hand clothes, never went out to eat. Everyone thought I was poor, including you, Robert. But I was building my future. I bought the first property when Liam was 10. I rented it. With that income and my savings, I bought the second one 5 years later, then the third. And so I kept growing. Slowly, smartly, in silence. Why in silence? Asked Susan. Why did you never say anything? Because money changes people, I replied. Because I did not want Liam to grow up with a rich kid mindset. I wanted him to learn the value of work, of effort, of sacrifice. I wanted him to be a good man before a money man. That is why, when he turned 25, I cut off my financial support, so he would fly alone. And he did. He got a good job, strove, built his life. I was proud of him. Until he decided his success gave him the right to judge me. Liam sat on the floor, in the middle of the empty living room, head in hands. My God, everything I said at that dinner, everything I bragged about, the kitchen, the trip to Europe, the $90 wine, and you were there, knowing we lived in your property, paying you with your own money, basically. Technically, you paid with your money, I corrected, the money you earned with your work. I was just the landlady you never met. The contract was real, the payments were real, your obligation was real. The only false thing was your superiority. Olivia dropped down next to Liam. Both sitting on the floor of my apartment, destroyed, humiliated more completely than they had humiliated me. But I did not feel triumph. I felt something more complex, relief mixed with sadness, justice mixed with pain. And now what? Asked Liam with a broken voice. Do you hate us? Are you going to punish us forever? We will never have a normal relationship again. I do not hate you, I said with honesty. I am disappointed. I am hurt, but I do not hate you. You are my family. Liam, you are my son. I love you. I will always love you. But love does not mean accepting disrespect. Love does not mean being invisible. True love includes boundaries, consequences, and lessons. Robert approached me and hugged me. Sister, you are incredible. All this time I thought you needed help. I thought you were the vulnerable one of the family. And it turns out, you are probably the most successful of all of us. Success is not measured only in money, I said. It is measured in character, in resilience, in the ability to build something with integrity. And in that, I hope I have taught you something. James started putting away the documents. Mrs. Eleanor, if I may, there is something else they should know. He took out another paper. This is the updated appraisal of Unit 4B. With the improvements you made, especially the kitchen. The value increased by $45,000. Your $30,000 investment generated a capital gain of $45,000. Ironically, you were excellent tenants and involuntary investors. Olivia started laughing, a hysterical, broken laugh, half crying, half cackling. Perfect, perfect. We increased her equity. We improved her property. We bragged about her own wealth to her. And we called her a failure. This is crazy. It is karma, said Susan softly. It is poetic justice. I approached Liam and Olivia. I knelt in front of them to be at their level. Listen to me well. This lesson was hard. It was necessary. But it does not have to be the end of our relationship. It can be a new beginning. A beginning where we respect each other mutually. Where we do not judge by appearances. Where we understand that each person has their own story, their own battles, their own achievements that perhaps are not visible. How can we regain your trust? Asked Liam, wiping his tears. How do we fix this? With time, with actions, not just words. With genuine respect, not faked, with real humility, not acted because you need something from me. Olivia looked directly at me for the first time since she entered. I underestimated you completely. I saw you as an awkward mother-in-law who had failed in life. I never imagined you were a successful businesswoman who chose to live simply. I was horrible to you, and I am sorry. I truly am sorry. I am sorry too, Mom, said Liam. I am sorry for being blind. I am sorry for being arrogant. I am sorry for measuring your worth by what I thought you did not have, instead of by who you are. I am sorry for failing you as a son. You did not fail me completely, I said, standing up and offering them my hands to help them up. You failed me in that moment. But moments can change. People can grow. Relationships can heal. If you are willing to do the work, we are willing, both said at the same time. James closed his briefcase. Mrs. Eleanor, is there anything else you need from me today? Yes, James. One more thing. I turned toward Robert. My brother owns a building where Liam and Olivia now live. On the 3rd floor, for $3,000 a month. I want you to investigate Robert's building. If he is interested in selling, I want to buy it. Robert looked at me surprised. You want to buy my building? I want Liam and Olivia to be able to stay there without worries, without fear of another eviction, without anxiety that things will change again. And if I am the owner, I can ensure that. But with conditions. They will pay their full rent. No favors, no discounts. Everything will be professional and fair. And if they ever disrespect me again, the consequences will be permanent. It will not happen again, promised Liam. I swear, Mom, never again. We will see with time, I said. We all left Unit 4B. In the hallway, Liam stopped and looked back one last time. Goodbye to the apartment that was never ours, he whispered. No, I corrected him. Goodbye to false pride. Goodbye to arrogance. Goodbye to judging without knowing. The apartment was just brick and cement. What you lost was much more valuable than that, and what you can gain from here on out is too. 6 months later, things were different. Liam and Olivia adapted to their new apartment. Smaller, simpler, but paid with their own effort and with dignity. Olivia got a part-time job and stopped posting on social media about the perfect life. Liam learned to cook at home instead of eating out all the time. They saved. They planned. They grew. Family dinners resumed, but with a completely new dynamic. No one bragged, no one competed. Olivia brought simple and delicious desserts without apologizing for not being elaborate. Liam spoke of his goals with humility instead of arrogance. And I brought my homemade rice pudding, which now always had a place of honor at the table. One afternoon, Liam came alone to visit me at my penthouse. It was the first time I invited him to my true home. He walked through the rooms with silent awe, seeing the artwork, the quality furniture, the terrace with the spectacular view. All this time, he said finally, you lived here, in this beautiful place. And you let us believe you lived in a small, rented apartment. Because I did not need you to know where I lived, I explained. I needed you to know who I was. And for that, first you had to learn who you really were. And who are we? He asked, sitting on my sofa. You are good people who lost their way temporarily, I replied. You are capable of growing, of changing, of learning. That is more valuable than any property I have. Liam hugged me for a long time. Thank you, Mom, for not giving up on us, for teaching us the hardest and most necessary lesson of our lives, for being the strongest woman I know. You are welcome, son, I whispered. Now go home to your wife. And remember, true success is not in what you have. It is in who you are and how you treat others. While I watched Liam leave, I thought about the journey we had made together. From that horrible dinner to this moment of genuine understanding. It was not easy. It was painful. But it was necessary. Sometimes the greatest love is not the one that gives everything, it is the one that teaches everything. And I had taught the most important lesson: never underestimate a quiet woman. Because silence does not mean weakness. Sometimes it means power waiting for the exact moment to reveal itself.